You set it away. How we doing?
Oh man, good. I'm well, man. I'm well. I'm buzzing. I've been on a high. I've been on a bit of a high. Just got off a lesson,
Right.
teaching English. Well, basically helping my father-in-law's son's mate with an English exam that he's not studied for. And I was just
Oh,
explaining him stuff.
yeah.
Um, he doesn't speak English. So I was just explaining tricks and stuff to him in Italian, and I don't know, just one of those, one of those times you're just doing something, you're doing your job or whatever, and speaking, and I was kind of like observing myself from a different kind of like third person's view, and I was like, fucking hell, man, I'm speaking in Italian to this guy like 6, 7 years ago. Wouldn't have made sense to me anything I was saying, and I'm there just there speaking, teaching him like. Yeah, epic. I love languages, mate. I love it. I've
What,
had a good day, so I'm feeling good.
what does it feel like going like teaching English? So normally you would teach like Spanish and Italian or whatever. Does it feel weird doing English? Because it's like sort of a reversal of
Yeah, I don't like it. Um, well, I don't not like it. It's just more fun speaking foreign languages and teach foreign languages to me. You
Hmm.
know. Uh,
Yeah.
to be honest, we weren't doing a real English lesson, what I would call proper learning. We weren't doing it. I was just giving him tips and trying to get him through an exam and doing old school teaching.
Yeah.
Uh, like grammar and stuff, and whatnot. But yeah,
Mm.
it's
Cool.
uh, it's cool. I like people,
Yeah.
something about languages, man. It's because when someone's speaking a foreign language, that they're immediately vulnerable. So they're in a vulnerable state, and I am too. Even when I speak in Italian, my Italian is very good, and I understand it and everything. But I'm still more vulnerable than I am when I speak in English.
Mm.
It's just easier to connect with people, to make jokes, or
Mm.
I can't explain it. I don't know. Maybe from an energetic standpoint, what would it be like? Because I'm kind of just in a. It's just you're just more open.
Yeah.
Do you know? When you're
Yeah. Yeah.
speaking in English, maybe you're like very guarded, and I know exactly who I am, what I'm saying. When I'm speaking a foreign language, I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes speaking like a 5-year-old, just to try and communicate a point or
So
explain a word that I don't know.
I suppose it's a bit like playing a like just like a different character, isn't it? It's just like being a totally different role from what you normally what you do. So yeah, interesting. Mm.
Yeah, man. What about yourself? How's tricks?
Um, yeah, not too bad. I'm teaching a Reiki course like from tomorrow, like Saturday and Sunday. So I'm teaching Reiki level 2 to some students from last year. So they're going on with their journey. So I've been doing a little bit of prep work like yesterday, today, getting stuff ready, getting handouts printed out and things things ready and yeah, just it's good to kind of like just top up my sort of like knowledge again because it was like what when did I do level 2 was 2020, so like God, 4 years ago. Um yeah, so it's good just to top up a little bit with kind of like your knowledge of
Mm.
where you've been and where things are now and also like because like I've changed and I've developed from watching and listening to other people, it's trying to incorporate that wisdom into my teachings as well. Whereas before it would have been probably been something totally different. Whereas now, as I'm learning, the courses are becoming more organic, um, because there's more flow and there's more energy going into them because of it's starting to flow through me naturally rather than me reverting to a course book. It's just
Mm.
flowing naturally, so it feels nicer to have that just going through uh the motions, I suppose. So yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I mean I've had 2 weeks off, so I've been off. I was off last week, off this week, so it's been nice just to like not be kind of like working, but still doing my client. stuff. So I've had like loads more time and loads more space to be able to do things and do like a couple of videos. And yeah, I'm starting to dip into more of my older videos and doing shorts from them now to try and get some more views on them because my channel just seems to have just gone, just kind of like just stopped.
Really?
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
just,
you were pumping out loads of content on your channel. I thought,
well,
he's
I've been
doing
doing
bits.
like shorts. I've been doing loads of shorts because that's always good to get new people like viewing
Yeah.
the channel. And the shorts that I'm doing are from like older videos from to see if they can if I can bring some fresh energy into older videos to get more views on it and what have you. And
Mm.
um, I shared one today, and it was like it was like a 15-second snippet from when I channeled John Lennon. And then so I put that on, and then within 5 minutes of that going up, I had a comment come through about that video. This last said, "You need to go and see a doctor."
And mate, I really love them. I actually really like reading through some YouTube comments. It just, oh my God. We are living in completely different worlds, eh? To like the split is there. It is
Oh
so
yeah.
clear to see. And I don't know how these poor people, and I say poor people like compassionately, because
Mm,
they must just think, yeah, people have gone fucking mad. Do you know?
yeah.
As much as we think they've gone mad, like believe in government and stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we've gone the opposite way. So we both sides are looking at each other like, eh?
yeah,
You meant what are you talking about?
yeah,
Stay home, save lives. There's no, it's so cold. You know?
yeah,
And on the other
yeah,
side, they're like, what do you mean you've been talking to your angels and stuff like this? So funny. I love reading the comments of videos, man. It's so funny. And the shorts you just attract everyone. The algorithm,
yeah,
for some reason, just likes to fuck with people, doesn't it?
yeah.
Goes, yeah, I'm gonna mess with this guy, this very
Mm.
normal. They're gonna mess with this normie who normally watches football videos. Give him a flat Earth video or something, and they're just like, "What?" It's so funny.
Yeah,
I love it, man. We live in great times.
I can't a lot of my videos now when I do the shorts, I just disable the comments because I'm just sick of that many sort of
Don't do
preachy
that,
people and church
mate. You've got to
people
do it.
and
You've got to do it for the algorithm. Let the comments come in. Reply to them as well.
oh, I can't be bothered.
Give him a few namaste, my brother. I hope to
Peace,
see.
peace be with you, my friend.
I'll meet you in the higher dimensions
Yeah,
in another cycle.
yeah.
Blessings
Oh,
to you in your next 8,000 incarnations.
yeah. So, how does that help the algorithm? Does it the comments?
Yeah, of course. Engagement, isn't it? That's what people do.
Yeah.
Engagement farming. Sometimes I write on Twitter, I'll just write something. I'll, I write stuff like profound, deep tweets, and I might get like five people like it, a couple people go, "Wow, oh my God, thank this is so great." But the ones that get all the engagement is I just write something either to like trigger someone or just go against the mainstream opinion. Do you know? I'll say something like, uh, if you study grammar, oh, I don't say things like this actually, but along the lines of if you study grammar before learning the language, learn how to speak it and understand it, you're a moron, or something like that. Do you
Mm,
know? You get loads of people who love grammar. It's like playing into that polarity, right?
mm,
It's so
mm,
fascinating how um it's like an entity that feeds off of itself. Do you know? People are
mm.
doing it unconsciously all the time, aren't they?
Yeah.
Saying something like this and then yeah, just say something polarizing, and it's the law. You're gonna get something. So when you write something from your heart and something deep, you're only gonna get a select few people who are gonna resonate with. That's what
Mm,
I'm finding anyway.
mm,
With Twitter, with other platforms, I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
so. Maybe new age stuff, mate. You should like put some new age language in it. Do you do any videos like that?
I don't disable the comments on like the long videos because I like the interaction of the longer videos, but the shorts I always tend to get like oh, I always get like just idiots. Like
Mate, you gotta love them. You gotta
yeah.
love them. They're doing the hard work. They're doing the legwork. You know, they're doing all the. getting the the algorithms on your side.
Mm.
They're a blessing.
I've just been watching there's a channel on Virgin Media. It's called I think it's called Blaze, I think. Something like that. And pretty much for the last hour and a half, I've been watching stuff on UFOs and Area 51 and disclosure and all that sort of stuff. That's been interesting. And there was a man and a woman that got out of a Jeep and they were like really on the borders of Area 51. And you could see all like the lookouts in the Jeeps, like and start to stop people from getting too close and what have you. And I used to be like really interested in that years ago, especially when do you remember Louis Theroux?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he did a show about like aliens and extraterrestrials and Area 51 and what's going on there, and he couldn't get in, and he yeah, his show, that one was like really interesting, but there was a strange guy that he spoke to, um, and apparently he channeled this alien, and he started like like making all these unusual, strange noises, and and all these messages came. But you know, like Louis Theroux's face is always like
Yeah,
worried,
I can imagine.
like what's going on? So I might have to start digging some Louis Theroux stuff out shortly just to have a bit of a laugh with that. But have you ever been interested in like kind of like UFOs and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Do you know, not so much UFOs. Not so much UFOs. I've obviously watched probably a lot of hours on YouTube of documentaries and stuff, but I wouldn't qualify that as being one of my biggest interests. There's a period in which I watched hours and hours of a guy. I can't remember what his YouTube channel is now. But channeling a lot of like channeled content because it a lot of the messages resonated with me. Some of them didn't, and I started getting a feel for the ones who would like just I don't want to say narcissist because you know what I mean. I don't know these people, but I got like a strange vibe off of them, and you can tell when it's like a heartfelt message that's coming from if if not an extraterrestrial being or whatever from a higher consciousness. Let's say could be from us, you know. Um, so I got into that. I used to watch loads and loads and loads and loads, but I've kind of not fallen out of love with it, just don't not just not interested
Yeah.
really. And then aliens, it's tough because it's kind of the aliens thing. It's kind of since I looked into the flat Earth stuff actually, because you there's a big divide with the flat Earth people. A lot of them they look at the globe model and they're like, okay, well that's not true. They look at what we can scientifically measure and they're like, oh, what we can tell is flat. And then from there they get into another kind of bit of a polarity trap, and then they say, okay, well the stars are all fake. Do you know what I mean? It's a
Mm,
simulation. Some of them meaning, okay, we're in a simulation, and it's got a dome over it, and the stars are, fake.
mm,
Um, and unconsciously, I kind of got into that a little bit. Um, Not that I've ever clung to a belief system really strongly, but I think I kind of got into that a bit, and I was like, yeah, all right, yeah, it's stars or whatever. Um, but then you can't deny stuff like astrology and all like the effects like the planets and things have on us
mm,
and whatnot. And yeah, so now I'm kind of very, very open to different beings. What we might call extraterrestrial. I'd say extra dimensional, kind of
mm.
different dimensions, and saying
Yeah,
that
yeah.
what we see above us from our perception obviously is so limited, right? But we're actually looking into higher
Mm,
dimensions, and then obviously other beings are going to live there. It's like so that kind of it works at the moment. I can kind of incorporate all the things that
mm.
I know. that I believe to be true into my little belief system. But yeah, I don't know if I trust. No, I don't know, like not trust channelers, but I think that um, I don't know. I don't know. I'm wary. Do you know? I'm
Mm.
wary, but then
Mm.
again, I'm wary of any probably the same as yourself, right? Anything that's
Yeah,
coming externally, you you don't know if it's true. You can only
yeah,
feel what resonates, can't you? And
yeah.
don't know.
That's what I
What's your
try and
take
do.
on?
I try and
Mm.
feel into them and just like, because what the beauty of being like being empathic and being open is you can kind of like you can read people really well. So you can look into like the body language, look into the eyes, you can look into the facial expressions, and you can see like, is this like, it's a bit like when you watch mediums, like when you watch mediums work and psychic people, and you watch them work, and you're like, hmm, I'm not sure about that, and you just get like kind of like a feeling, like just because of what you're seeing of them. And it's the same with channelers. It's that sometimes the information that comes through is just so like it's so across the board that anyone could just say it. Whereas sometimes like you'll get some people that'll give something like really specific and really profound and information that we've never really heard before. A bit like Bashar, Bashar, that guy that channels Bashar,
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of the information that he gives. Because earlier on, like probably a few years ago, I used to see clips of him, and I'm just thinking, oh, who's this quacky? I used to like kind of like think, what's he going on about? But like as you can like evolve yourself, your energy evolves, and you like I start, and I'm same with him. I kept like an open mind, and I was watching it. And I'm just like, you know what? This guy is actually he's actually for real, or he believes he's for real because he's so in it. And even listening to him talk as the person, Daryl, somebody, I can't remember his name. But even hear him speak as the person, um, very honest, very heart-centered, very open, it seemed just very genuine. Um, and yeah, and again, the messages that he gives are so kind of like bump, it's just like it's hard information. It's just like there. That's why that's happening. And he doesn't kind of like flower around it with this and that, well, like a lot of people do. And it's a bit like when you channel the higher self, it always tends to just give information like bump straight out and no like messing around. So that's how you kind of like know that it is genuine information that is coming through.
mm. Yeah. That's the only thing you can do, really, innit? Take what
Mm,
resonates.
yeah.
Uh, and I get that when yeah, a lot of channelers they always say that yeah, just take what resonates, leave what doesn't.
Mm,
And I was in the time kind of very dualistic about like truth and untruth, and I was like, wow, do you know what I mean? Whether it's true kind of thing. But I think I'm starting to understand what that means, like what resonates. Because if you're resonate at a certain level of frequency,
mm,
um, ultimately, I mean, you get into non-duality, and if you want to talk about, well, you can't talk about truth really, like infinite consciousness being, because it's all different levels of energy manifest. Like truth is, and it pains me to say it a bit because it is subjective in that way. But it's also like someone could be saying something from this kind of level of frequency, and if you're vibrating here, like it's not going to vibrate as true
no. Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
even though for this kind of level,
Mm,
it is true. So it's
yeah.
kind of like perspective, isn't it? And so
Yeah.
they're kind of saying to you, okay, if what I'm saying to you is resonating with you, then it means you've something in you kind of is resonating on that frequency
Mm,
already.
yeah.
So if you're open to it, follow
Mm,
that,
mm, mm,
and disregard anything else. I like or at least I have more respect for channelers and people who say take what resonates, you know, and the
Mm.
humility. Like you said with like the Bashar bloke, whatever his real name is, Daryl or something or other, isn't
Something
it?
like that.
Is it
Yeah.
Daryl? Damien? I don't know.
It's Daryl or
But
Darren or something like that. It's a D name.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure it's Daryl.
Uh, I think it is Daryl. But yeah, if he were to say something like something like that, or just he seems humble, like in
Mm.
his human kind of energy. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can get down with that. I can get down with that.
Mm.
Rather than like a preaching, uh, and you can kind of start to discern quite easily, can't you? The ones who are
Yeah.
preaching and
Yeah. Yeah.
preaching from ego, they've like had an insight, a spiritual insight, and then the ego's created a character around that and has run with it,
Mm.
and then is they've sourced information from outside themselves. You can feel the message. So like yeah, like the non. Have you looked into like non-duality and stuff? Like the non. There's like almost like a movement, non-duality movement. Are you
Yeah. I
not
mean,
into that?
I've looked into like bits of it,
Yeah,
and a lot of it, like a lot of it through the actual like healing work and the healing practice that we discuss non-duality, especially in like teaching. And when we're teaching Reiki, we're looking at like non-duality and not being like of a fixed point and things like that within the practice. So yeah, there's definitely elements of it that I've looked into or use alongside. Because again, as like I said before, as you kind of like develop yourself over time, and then you get to speak to more people. You speak to like yourself and speak to other people, and they all give their kind of where they're at and their understanding of things. And again, what resonates, you take in what resonates, you leave what doesn't, and you build up this little think tank of wisdom within. And then that's there for you to kind of like pool. And sometimes it takes a while for it to integrate into you to like fully understand it, but eventually you do understand it. And then you might hear something or read something, and then something like goes click, and you're like, oh right, okay, that's why that means that, and that's why when they mention that, that gives uh that meaning. um and because when I first started learning Reiki level 2, which is about becoming a practitioner and learning about distance healing, my understanding was very physical. It was very like, well, I'm here in wherever I'm at, and I'm sending this healing to that location wherever they're at, and over time, as you evolve, you actually realize, well, there is no time and space, and it's only energy, and we're all existing in the same frequency because we're all made of the same energy. So there is no distance, and there is no time and space. There is only the present moment. And that's where we kind of like get more into the spiritual realms, like with Eckhart Tolle and people like that who say about
mm.
the present moment, because
Yeah,
that's all there ever is. And that's
yeah,
that's being as core spiritual as you can, just appreciating every single present moment.
yeah,
Because that's where the awareness arises from. That's where the wisdom and the knowing and the feeling and the emotions arise from, and then you can work out and integrate them and heal them. Um, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's where obviously like the crossover of whatever, it always comes back to the present moment,
Mm. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that is what is, it's kind of like that. And then we all sprout in different ways, It's like the ground of the present moment, and then we're all kind of different flowers of saying, wow, this is what I know from the present moment, is this perspective, and I'm like this kind of color, and maybe even colors like people who have predominant I don't know, auras, or do you know what I mean? Could be
Mm.
like that. Or I don't know if we're here to like learn certain lessons, and who knows? Um, who knows? But it always comes back to the present moment, and
Mm.
yeah, what kind of flowers from that. It's
Yeah.
just different like different perspectives, isn't it? And
Yeah.
different
Yeah. And that's always like the core. That's the core of the whole lot of it. The whole meaning of spirituality is that present moment. Um, and Deepak Chopra, I've got a couple of books by him, and Eckhart Tolle and other spiritual people. It's always about the present moment being the basis for everything. Um, yeah, so I just watched a video today with Franz Steiner, who's another a Reiki teacher in Holland, and he was talking very much about the same thing, but he was he was basically giving like a speech on Reiki, like a seminar on Reiki, and other people were asking questions later on, and actually he brought up quite an interesting point about because one of the people that came on and asked a question, they said, "Oh, what do you think about protecting your energy, and do you use any protection practices?" and he sort of like went off on like a bit of a tangent. He was talking about like protection of energy. And he said, well, he said he said if you think of um if I'm gonna do a hands-on healing session, okay, I might have protected my energy, but then they need to protect their energy from me. And he said it's like me holding this, and he held it like a cup. He said if this was full of hot water, it
Mm.
would burn my fingers. But I need to protect myself from the energy of it, but also it needs to protect the energy of itself from me. So he said he doesn't ever use protection because what he does is he just focuses on his spirit and his light. And instead of, because he said if you walk around the street and you're constantly like shielded and protected, then you walk around kind of like looking um like an easy target, I suppose. But he said if you just walk around, you just walk open, and he said he was
Mm.
in like America somewhere doing a teaching course, and there was these guys, and they were like riding these bikes, and they were making them scared and making noises and doing all this stuff, and he was walking with one of his friends, and he said obviously most people would feel quite intimidated by that, but they were coming towards them. But he just said, "Hey, that looks so cool. Can I have a go of one of them?" And he just opened up to them, and then we're just like, "Oh yeah, yeah, sure, of course." And he said that the whole energy of them as a group just changed because he'd gone in and opened them up. He'd opened his
Mm.
energy to them, and they opened their energy to him. And then he had a go and fell off, and they had a bit of a laugh, and they went away on a totally different frequency to what they were when he first came into contact with them. So I thought, that is really, really interesting, really good way of explaining it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the difference, isn't it, between wanting to find okayness and protect yourself. I want to find okayness and be okay, and just being okayness, do you know? It's the
Mm,
same idea, I guess, but one is very expanded. I guess he just knows himself, and
mm,
knows
yeah.
thyself on a deep level, and you
Mm,
just become as vulnerable as vulnerable as you become vulnerable like God. God is
mm,
vulnerable, completely open, completely vulnerable,
mm,
completely loving, and the more vulnerable you become with yourself, and this links into the healing work, right?
mm,
Become vulnerable with yourself, accepting yourself, and through whatever kind of way you do it, be it therapy or Reiki or whatever, you've got to be open and vulnerable.
mm,
And then eventually you start to realize yourself as, oh, vulnerable. Wow. And like, I don't know if we've talked about this before. I probably talked to you about it, like the word vulnerable, how we've just got such a twisted view of it as like
mm,
vulnerable, do you think weak, right? That's the kind of energetic projection we put on it.
mm,
Vulnerable, you're weak. Actually, if vulnerable is complete strength,
mm,
it's complete okayness. If you're vulnerable, you're there just like, yeah, and you're okay with being vulnerable. What are you
mm.
saying? You're like, you can't touch me.
Yeah.
If you're like this trying to protect yourself
Mm,
because you feel uh weak or whatever or not strong,
mm,
yeah. That's something I realized about that. And I was like, yeah, wow. And if you think about consciousness or God, that which we are ultimately, it is completely vulnerable.
Mm.
Do you know? This is that. Like it's everywhere and all exposed and vulnerable and radiant is another way they talk about like light. You could use it that kind of analogy in it. Light is completely vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Light is so vulnerable.
Mm.
Um, but it's all powerful.
Yeah,
So why the fuck would you not be?
yeah.
What you got to worry about? Do you know? You can't
Mm.
be vulnerable or all powerful. So it sounds like he's just he knows himself
Mm.
on that
Yeah.
level, right? And it's amazing now that story about how he changed the energies. Yeah, even I guess even like a smile or like a joke and something can do that, can't it?
Mm. Yeah. And he is like a really fun guy to like listen to and watch, and the way he explains it, he builds like the picture. Um, because at the beginning of this of his talk, he was talking about like um how to how to like give good healing, or how to be a good healer, and so his analogy how he started was basically about baking a cake, and having the right ingredients, and that's exactly what the Reiki precepts are all about. Is about having the right ingredients. So if you don't have the right ingredients and don't have the right building blocks, if you have the wrong ingredients, it's gonna go wrong, or it won't cook right, or So he came up with all these different analogies, and it was really that's what I mean by absorbing other information. It's always good to listen to what other people have to say, because then you kind of like um, you bring it into your own perception and awareness of it, um, and having a deeper understanding of it, so then you can spread it and pass it on. So yeah, good.
Exactly. And
Mm,
that being aware, it's you're vulnerable, aren't you, really?
mm,
Someone
yeah,
with an open mind, you can see it like that.
mm,
Completely vulnerable. Do
yeah,
you know? Saying
and
like, yeah, these set of beliefs I have now, I hold on to them very lightly. Do you know?
mm,
I've been here like what, 30 years, this like incarnation, I have not a clue about anything.
mm,
I'm my beliefs are very like vulnerable in
yeah,
that way, very open. And yeah, you really get other people's energies and then you can grow like that, can't you?
yeah.
There's an expansiveness to it.
It's the same as like
Um,
surrender, isn't it? Surrendering is exactly the
mm,
same thing. Being vulnerable, you're just surrendering, just totally letting go of any um pre precognitive perception of the outcome. It's just like just out there. Just open yourself up.
yes. And that's surrendering. That's a sacrifice, you know? That's the Jesus on the cross archetype. That's the okay, I don't know. Do you know, I'm giving this up, whatever it is, I'm surrendering it. You're sacrificing, that part of you that wants to know, that thought it knew something.
Mm,
You're like, okay, putting that on the cross, crucifying that. I'm absolutely, and even this man, like arms straight out like that. That's like, I mean, whatever you want to think about Jesus in the story and whatnot, and all the other meanings of the cross, but that's like vulnerable, isn't it?
well, yeah,
But
it's
it's
like
also expansive.
it's the heart,
Oh,
isn't it?
mate,
It's
we're
the
onto
heart.
something.
The heart is
Look
open.
how vulnerable that is, but
Yeah.
also look how expansive it is, and
Mm,
look how like radiant it is when you're doing this. You feel like,
mm,
like when you celebrate and score a goal in football, it's not like you're doing this.
yeah, yeah.
You're doing this, yeah. It's power, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
vulnerable
yeah.
power.
Look at me.
Um, oh
Mm,
God, mate, we're onto something here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Full moon today as well.
full moon. Oh yeah. Oh, should we talk about the moon a bit? We jump around a lot on these episodes. Whatever. These guys. Anyone watching this? God bless you if you are watching this. Make sure you get checked out at some psychiatric
Yeah.
hospital
Try and keep
if you
up.
make it this far into our chats.
Yeah.
Hello, commenters in the YouTube comment space. Um, yeah, man, full moon. Now, obviously, these are just theories that I kind of either hear about or I just sit with stuff and just think about shit, and it just resonates for a period. But man, the moon and so the moon's the negative, right? The sun is the positive that gives, and the moon is the negative that pulls. Yeah, the masculine, the giver, penetrator,
Mhm.
penis, and the receiver, the receiver, yeah, the taker. That's why women drain you. No, I'm joking. But they do a bit. Yeah, they take. Yeah, they take and they create. They take and they create. So the moon, this is my theory, because I've heard of it having something to do with reincarnation, right? I think it pulls during the full moon. You know, people go crazy and they're like lunatics and whatever, moonsters and monsters. I think it's because it's pulling on the three lower chakras and it's pulling out the karma. So it's drawing the karma towards it. So whatever kind of karma you've got, it's pulling it up and out, which is why I guess they do rituals and stuff, and it can be very healing to do things on a full moon, and you don't want to start things on a full moon, you want to do it at the new moon. There'll be reasons, I don't know why. But it's what's kind of connecting us to this lower kind of realm,
Mm,
right? And what really attaches us to the realm gets pulled out. And that's why people go crazy and stuff on the full moon. And then that would make sense with reincarnation, as if you're very identified. If you're just identified with the lower three chakras here, you know, what are they again? The root one, the fear,
root,
the
sacral.
sex, the power.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All those things that the ego is literally, this is what the ego is. You know, the ego is not going
Mm,
to come and say a really loving, heartfelt thing. That's your higher consciousness, which you truly are, which is speaking through at that point.
mm,
But attachment to those lower three chakras on when you die, straight to the moon, my son. Yeah. I love you till the moon and back. That's what we say in English, don't we? I
mm,
love you to the
mm,
moon and back. And other languages as well, they say it. I always wondered about that. Love you
mm.
to the moon and back. Oh, that means I love you a lot because the moon's far away. Well, it ain't far away, guys, because we can see it. It's not thousands of miles away. It's close. And I love you to the moon and back because it was saying I'm attached to you. Yeah. Because when
Mm,
you're saying that, although it ultimately all comes from cosmic God, it's all God. But you're saying I love you to the moon and back, you know, so our attachment will go together, reincarnate together, have another story, come back down to earth
mm,
until eventually you get sick of it and you yeah, suffer enough, I guess, and you start to move up into doing personal development and whatnot. You become conscious. I'll get a bit of power, law of attraction, spiritual stuff into the heart center, do some healing, shadow work. Oh, I don't know who I am. What the fuck? Ooh. You
mm.
know, dark night, dark night of the soul. That's the spiritual stuff. When you say I don't know who I am, like that's welcome. Do you know what I mean? Look, this is
Welcome,
your
welcome, my friend. You are here.
welcome the
You are
journey back
welcome in
home.
my house.
The journey back home, you kind of like you walk so far out, don't you? You go, yeah, this is me, this is me, this is me. Da, da, da. Gather so much stuff, and you're like, oh, I've got so much responsibility, this, that, I've got to do this, that. You're suffering so much, and then you're like, I can't do this anymore. Start doing a bit of healing. That's when you turn back round or go back home, and you go, fucking hell, who am I? And then you just got to keep walking, you
Mm,
know, just
yeah,
keep going back.
yeah.
So anyway, that's my theory. Um, any thoughts? Have you heard about a theory like that before, or is
I don't think so, but it's very interesting, especially, and what I was thinking as well was because of the moon being the feminine, um, we all have this etheric cord that attaches us to our physical body, which is at the belly button. Obviously, belly button comes from birth, so it comes from the womb, from the mother, mother being the moon. Um, so this is why you've got this etheric pull, this etheric cord that goes to the moon. If you haven't dealt with what you need to, then you come back. back down the etheric cord into another reincarnated body, and then you have to replay through it again. And it's only through that passage of um, passing over into spirit, coming back again, going up, going back, that that process of what you're talking about will eventually start to happen, because something inside you will be like, I feel like I've been here before. I feel like I've done this 1,000 times before. It doesn't get any better. Blah, 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 blah. And all these inside just replays and emotions and feelings and all these cycles. You just think there must be something more to life than this. And that for me was the very beginning of, for my spiritual awakening, was like, this can't be it. Surely not. This work, eat, sleep, repeat. And this was like, what, 22, 23-year-old or whatever. And I was just like, no, there must be more. This can't be it. But back then I was very much into um, the paranormal and sort of that sort of stuff. And over time, it's just evolved and evolved and become more present, really, within everyday occurrences. So yes, that's a really interesting concept. Definitely. Mm, I like it.
Yeah, resonates with me at the moment. So I'm gonna have that as my little nice little worldview.
Mm,
Would yeah, and like what you said with the chord, that would make sense then, yeah. You have that chord. Um, yeah, the moon. Mm-mm. I reckon so. I reckon so. And that's why it gets a bad rap as well.
mm,
Do you know? That's why, apart from it being the negative, oh no, negative is bad. You know, we have that. That's the duality that
that's the
keeps us in the
duality.
realm,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Ultimately,
Mm,
talk about it from a different angle, moving up to the heart chakra, you're in the middle. You
mm,
know, when you're down here, you completely polarize. This is good, that is bad. I am
mm.
right, he is wrong. Yeah, in conflict, karma,
Yeah.
suffering. Once you get sick of that, it happens to everyone at some point. You just go, fuck it, I just want to be at peace, man.
Mm,
Where is the peace? Oh,
yeah.
it's not in the polarities.
Yeah.
It's in realizing the beauty in that we can't experience this separation, this illusion without the polarities, without the positive and the negative doing this,
Mm,
you know? So that's the non-duality, isn't it? That's the stepping into the middle,
mm,
and that's the realizing, oh, okay, it all serves a purpose, and that's in the heart,
mm,
you know? And then eventually the throat chakra, then they get the wisdom
mm,
from that. Start to realize, oh wow, okay, you can see I don't know, like, I guess psychic powers and stuff with the third eye and whatnot and seeing into different realms, but certainly, and this is just where I'm kind of at the moment, feeling into that like the throat chakra and the realization of being of nothing as well as everything. Because the heart kind of says I'm everything. When you realize that, have that like loving kind of experience, um, you're like, wow, oh my God, it's all love. You
mm.
are that, I am that.
Yeah.
Wow. And then the throat chakra feels like it's kind of a more it's still that because that is the ultimate truth, but it's also the kind of a destruction more of the ego. Do you know?
Mm,
He's more of a like disintegrating. And then I think at the third eye, I would say even more so because you've got to be very like focused, concentrated. You know, I sit down and meditate, and I'm still like not suffering like past traumas like I would have before,
mm,
but like getting into a state of samadhi and doing astral projection and stuff. Like what? No, I'm like far away from that. I'm
mm.
not really bothered about it either, to be fair,
Yeah.
at the moment. But yeah,
Mm.
interesting times, and
Yeah, astral
yeah,
was a very interesting conversation, because I was just talking about this with somebody, well, with a group, because I did a group meditation with like a craft group last week. And uh, one of the ladies there had actually had two out of body experience, like near death experiences. So she was talking about them, and they were like really, really interesting. And I was explaining about like a couple of instances where I kind of like popped out my body. And the
Mm.
first time I did it, I didn't even know it. I was just like, "Fuck, what's just happened?" You know. And then
I'm
like
dead.
I was like, the fear just popped me back in. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
pumped and it just came back in again. The second time I did it, it was it lasted for a little bit longer. Um, but again, I couldn't quite maintain it. So after probably maybe about 10 seconds, 15 seconds,
Mm.
I eventually just kind of like gravitated back into the
Yeah.
physical body. But it's a really interesting sensation. Wonderful
Were you in
feeling.
the astral, like the astral realm, right? Did it
Well,
look like, did it look similar to your home, whatever, but with some weird differences? This is what I've experienced.
it was I was aware of the room around me and I was aware of my physical body, but I was
Mm.
also aware that I was probably around about 3 or 4 feet above my physical body. And then eventually I just drifted back in again. Um, the first time that it happened was probably the most powerful. Um, but again, because I wasn't expecting it to happen, I was a bit like, oh shit, you know, and then I kind of like my consciousness came round and I popped back in again. Um, but yeah, it's a really interesting feeling. Like I say, I was aware of my body, but sorry, I was aware of the room around me. But it was kind of like there, but it wasn't as well. It was kind of like going in and out of phases, and everything just felt kind of like um, just like wispy around me. It just felt like very, very light, and there was no because I wasn't attached to the physical body. There was no fear. There was no nothing. It was just like pure presence. And that's the only way I can really just bliss. There was nothing. There was no weight, nothing. So it was really, really beautiful. Like I say, it only lasted for like the second time, maybe about 10, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that. And I haven't,
Yeah.
there has been a couple of occasions where I've kind of like got somewhere near, but it's been, what's happened is I can feel my vibration lifting, but I'm actually moving out my body. It's just, everything's just kind of like, and I just feel like extremely light, but I'm not like actually above the body. Um, Well, the other day I was doing a meditation and I just sat and I think I'd mentioned this to you before a while back and I just sat and I just went into like this really, really deep trance and I kept my eyes open. I didn't blink at all for like minutes. It was quite a while. And the whole room was just changed into all these colors and frequencies and it was quite like psychedelic really the colors it was insane but and again this just feeling of pure just pure love and pure being and just oh just it was a really really lovely feeling um yeah but yeah that lady's stuff that she was talking about was really interesting and she said the second time that it happened to her was when she was giving birth and they had to operate on her and she died during because it was a C-section she died and then she just remembered being in the corner of the room like looking down over everything. And then when she
Mm.
came back, she explained and described the whole procedure of what they'd done. Like, well, how do you know you were clinically dead? She said, yeah, but she said I was in the corner of the room looking down over everything. Um, so
Mm.
yeah, but she said the first time it happened, just she went through the tunnel and she got to the white light, and then they said it's not your time, back you go. So they sent her back, and she came back. It was really, but she was very in tune, and I said it's probably because you've gone over that veil that you've like it's opened you up like so much more
Yeah,
um to everything really.
that makes sense. That makes sense. I think a lot of people who've had NDEs talk about that. They kind of come back and they're either they've changed a lot they've had like a heartfelt realization. They let a lot of stuff go. They become a lot
Mm,
lighter,
mm.
or they yeah come back with what we would call gifts, but really yeah, it's just the ability to perceive beyond what we normally are decoding with our like brains,
Yeah,
um,
coming
which
back to
makes
your true
sense.
self. Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I did say to them as well. I said um, that there was a show on Netflix. I don't even know if it's still on there. Um, called Surviving Death, and the first episode was about near-death experiences, and a lot of them had like very similar to what she'd experienced. Um, and they'd kind of like been in the room and they described the whole procedure and then come back to life and explained what had happened. So it's yeah, really, really, really interesting. And it's very much like when that happens and they come back, again, it's very much like a spiritual awakening. It's the same kind of thing because they're just becoming open to their true being.
Yeah. 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 Fucking hell. Who knows? Who knows? Nice one. Well,
Mm.
we've covered a fair few topics there. Should we leave it there for the episode?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've been on for about an hour already. Um, but we've got a guest on the next video, haven't we? So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Great timing as well. We'll put this video out before. Yeah, we're going to be speaking to a guy who speaks to star family. So what we talked about at the start of this episode about he communicates to beings that live in the stars in different dimensions. I'll ask him kind of what exactly he means
Mm,
by that, and he's yeah, a great guy, very heart centered. I've spoken
yeah.
to him for yeah, hours and hours. I used to meet up with him and chat in a pub called The Crown, actually, which is funny. I know, I even
The
realized,
irony.
man, just the synchronicity, like The Crown,
Yeah,
realizing, oh wow, yeah, it's the Crown chakra. It's proper. He's into
open.
that. He's a yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
psychic. So it'll be a very interesting chat, and he's a great, great guy. So yeah,
yeah.
make sure you like and subscribe, guys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't make that one, but I have sent you some questions over to ask him. But I look forward to watching it. I'll watch it back for sure. Yeah, and I'll maybe I'll share it over on my channel as well. I'll tag the channel for people to go over and check it out as well. So yeah. So anyway, I shall let you go. Enjoy the rest of your evening over in beautiful Sardinia, and we shall reconvene again, my friend.
We shall indeed. Thank you very much, mate. Actually, stay on.
Yeah,
Wait.
I'll just stop this now.